Strongbox has been acquired by Applause. For those of you who don't know, Strongbox is an iOS and I believe macOS Keypass client. So if you're like a Keypass user, you'd prefer not to use Bitwarden or Proton Pass, like password managers. Keypass is an offline option, and Keypass is actually the protocol. So there's a bunch of different clients. There's like Strongbox. Android has something, Keypass DX or something like that. Keypass XC is a really popular one. That's the one I use. But yeah, Strongbox was one for Apple products. Applause is a team of indie developers who have been building iOS and macOS apps since 2010. While we may operate under the radar, you might know us through Nomo Robo, our spam call blocking app, or Voice Dream Reader, our text-to-speech app. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Real quick, I've never personally heard of this company, but I know some of you have, so hold on, we're getting there. They go on to say, we want to reiterate several things that will not change in this transition because we know what's the most important thing for you. Your data stays yours. Your passwords will remain where you stored them, protected by your encryption keys. No migration or conversion is needed. Keypass compatibility stays. We know this is essential, especially for our German users. Local storage and self-hosted sync options will also stay. So WebDAV, SFTP, iCloud, and offline use will remain fully supported. And the developer Mark will continue to support us in an advisory capacity, ensuring a seamless transition across the board. Near-term goals, performance and reliability improvements, full support for the latest OS updates in Apple Silicon, fixing sync and autofill bugs, better documentation and expanded language support, especially German. Long-term goals, the next 6 to 18 months, improve biometric and hardware security key support, better offline sync and conflict resolution, advanced password health insights, process locally on your device, and improve field management and templates. On the surface, when I read this, I thought, okay, this doesn't sound terrible. This certainly sounds better handled than Rivo, who just didn't say anything and fucked off with his presumably boatloads of money, which, for the record, I'm not going to blame him for that part. We went on that tangent, but just the whole lack of transparency. At least this is being a little bit transparent. However, there is a Reddit thread, which we will link in the show notes. Users are not happy about this. This is a company who has a history of acquiring apps and then inshifying them. Most notably, I mentioned Voice Dream Reader. That is a really popular app, apparently, with people who are blind or what do they call it? Like difficulty seeing. And recently moved to a subscription model. It used to be fully open, I think open source, but don't quote me on that. I'm gathering this from context from having read all the comments on Reddit. It was an open app, it was free, it was all that fun stuff. And then a couple years after Applause acquired it, it is now subscription based. So this is one of those companies. They buy up apps and then they inshify them and they charge for them and they change the licensing, they change the open source. So this is your call that Strongbox is not good. This is probably your chance to jump ship before things get really bad, because, you know, it's going to take them a while to actually start rolling this stuff out. And we generally do not encourage you. Like, I think I saw one person that was like, oh, I need to disable automatic updates now. Sure, that'll work for now until you can get your passwords out. But eventually you're going to have security vulnerabilities. It's going to stop being supported by the latest iOS, things like that. So for the desktop, Keypass XE is a really good option. I know it's not the prettiest, but it works great. I'm going to have to dig into some iOS options. I hate to say it, but I have to wonder, and I'm wondering here because I don't know anything about Strongbox and the community around it. I have to wonder if this is like an unfortunate, like, oh, this guy betrayed the community, or is this just because we mentioned this with Rivo? I hate to say it, but the privacy community can be a really toxic space sometimes. And 99% of you guys are great. The worst people are always the loudest. So like normal people will either not leave a comment or they'll just leave a positive comment like, hey, great work. Or they'll just leave an opinion like, oh, that's sad about Strongbox. The worst people are the ones who will send us 12 DMs and leave 12 comments about why we're wrong. And it is so exhausting. And I do not blame these developers for just hitting a point where they're just like, dude, I'm done. Screw this community, screw these ungrateful people. They're probably making, Cubes OS makes like $10,000 a year. And that's insane. I don't know how they're creating such an amazing operating system on that kind of a budget. There's whole projects that have a single person. Divest OS, we talked about them. Like, it was just too much after 10 years. He's like, dude, I'm done. Like, one person holding up a whole project. Anyways, where I'm going with this is, we've made this thing before. If you are someone who uses a product and you like it, please support them. If you can financially, please support them. And if you can't financially, send them an email real quick and just be like, hey, I want to let you know I can't afford to donate, but like, I really appreciate this project. That is a huge morale boost. We've gotten emails like that before and they're awesome. Again, I have to wonder how much of this is just he decided to betray the community and how much of this was like he just got tired of it and decided to move on. So either way, you as the user, this is your chance to jump ship if you use Strongbox. Definitely do it sooner than later. Look into some alternatives. Alternative2.net is a great resource. And I will also be trying to find some alternatives myself to recommend.
Someone already opened a GitHub issue on the Techler website to remove Strongbox because of this, and I have pretty much decided to give it a few days. Nothing that I've seen about this screams that there's going to be like an inherent privacy or security issue in the next week. This is something that's like a long-term concern because this organization, another more common example I've seen, I'm surprised people aren't talking about this, is Bartender. Bartender was like a super popular macOS tool, and it hasn't received any update since this company bought it out. It received a minor like update just to be compatible with Sequoia, but I don't think they've released any like big features or anything like that. So yeah, I think my concerns are more long-term, and I'm going to wait to see if there's any like follow-up with the Strongbox team to reassure us. But I'm kind of planning to maybe like recommend Keypassium after this, which isn't like another open source iOS, macOS Keypass client. This is sad. If you've never used Strongbox, I think it's hands down, no debate, the best Keypass client I've ever used. Strongbox's interface and usability is like top notch. And they actually rolled out some of their own features. Like you can always use SyncThing with Keypass XC and do that yourself. But with Strongbox, it had like its own built-in native Wi-Fi sync. So if you just have like a Mac and an iPhone on the same network with Strongbox, it would just automatically sync through your network without needing to touch the cloud. And that was just like something they built in directly into the software. And they had tons of other like little cool integrations like that. I actually think it's such a good client that I'm going to unlist it, but I'm still going to be following it to see if there's any hope for them in the long run, because it's a cool service.
You just watched a clip from our main podcast, Surveillance Report, where we talk about privacy and security news every single week to keep you all updated on the newest threats and how to prevent them from happening to you. If you want to learn more and stay updated, check it out here on the screen or in the description. And there's also an audio-only version that you can also find down in the description. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching.